أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. Like, who can remember what Imam al-Junayd had said about the 8 prophets, or if we can even remember the names of the 8 prophets that we had? Let's see who. Oh, excuse me for stretching. No. Any we can remember. The ones who got something, just shout it out quick, because then I'm not going to test you on the other 7. Sabr of Ayub, that's one. The faqr of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to come to that, the poverty, because that's one of the themes that comes later in the text. Sorry? The sakha, the generosity of the Prophet Sayyidina Ibrahim. Of one?
Somewhere that starts with S that means the movement of
siyaha, the tourism. The modern day translation is tourism, but I don't think that's quite the correct translation here. How does this, somebody translate it? The wandering, peripatetic wandering of Sayyidina Isa. The just being told to move and just moving. The contentment of Ishaq. Of course, we know that Sayyidina Ishaq, Isaac, was the one who was told his father Sayyidina Ibrahim was told to sacrifice him, and his answer to that was, "If al-ma tu'mar," do what you've been commanded to do, completely submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ishara, the indication of Zakaria, labas al-suf of Sayyidina Musa, the wearing of wool of Sayyidina Musa, and the ghurba, the seclusion or the cutting off of Sayyidina Yahya. We talked about good character as being the essence of tasawwuf, good character, but we didn't actually define it, did we? Any suggestions of what it might be as a definition? Actually, I'm going to leave that with people. And when we come back after Asr, I want people to... the first question I'm going to ask is, can we come up with a definition of what akhlaq is, or what good character is? Unless someone's got something they want to offer now.
I'm reminded of the dua that Hajj Mustafa reminded us of. Let me see things as they really are and respond appropriately.
See things as they are and respond appropriately. The second part of that certainly is akhlaq, and the first part of that is perhaps the essence of what leads to akhlaq. Yeah. So akhlaq is usually described in terms of behavior, but there's actually something which is an essence to the foundation of that. And perhaps we'll look at that again in a bit more detail, partly because as we read a bit more we might get a better definition. And inshallah, please.
To behave in such a way that you could live with behaving for eternity.
Wow, that's a good. I think should make a note of that. I left my pen upstairs. Can you keep that in your mind? And no, that was just something that just came to his heart. Living as if you can live like that for eternity. I think that there's something special in that, about it going forward, that going forwardness, so to speak, of character.
What about, can I add one point?
No.
What about in the akramakum atqakum? Atqa, it means piety in English language, but in this context it means to be, it comes from the word of taqwa, which comes from ittaqa, to protect or to combat yourself, to be aware in your behavior, in your actions, to bear in mind always this awareness afraid of God and
Yeah.
this. When come about this what is in your character.
So to have taqwa is the essence of good character. But taqwa you've kind of defined, but not exactly. And he went to the linguistic route. I like this. I like linguistics. So taqwa comes from the verb to hold back from something out of a sense of danger. So to not fall over the edge means, okay, I'm going to walk in this particular way. So being careful of not coming to harm. Yeah. A wiqaya means is a shield. It's also a means of protection from wiqaya could be a gas mask, for example, protecting you from poisonous gases. You were going to say something?
No, just this with the taqwa of covering up. I thought it means like covering up when you go into thorn bushes or something. You cover
Excellent.
Up.
So that you pull up your clothes when you're walking along, in particular a rose bush. A rose bush. Why? Because roses have thorns. But the beauty of the rose bush is that the rose bush is itself by definition beautiful. Roses are beautiful. But if you get too close to them, they tear your clothes. So to appreciate something, you need a little bit of distance and a little bit of care. And once you see something, which goes back to what one of you had said, seeing things correctly will give you taqwa. So if you see the bush correctly, the beauty of the bush, you can appreciate its beauty. And so have taqwa of Allah means to witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at different levels, which is what Habib Umar had said, moving from one level to the other, to witnessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that the bush is just an example of ultimately what we're trying to do is to witness who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. But we witness Him through the signs that He gives us. So we see the sun, but we witness Allah. To navigate. Excellent. So you navigate through a bush. If you've got bushes on either side, then you need to hold yourself and you need to walk straight. And when we say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, show us the straight path, what we mean by the straight path is that we can appreciate what's on the left and what's on the right. And we describe the perfect olive bush as being la sharqiyya wa la gharbiyya, not to the left and not to the east and not to the west. And that's one of the themes that we had, wasn't it, at one point of one of these gatherings, was to understand what does it actually mean to be in the middle. So if you're in the middle of two rose bushes down the side of the road, then you've got the perfect path that you can really appreciate, but only if you stick to the middle. If you start to wander off to the side, the thorns might just prick you back a bit again, which is what the meaning of the path is. Wow, this is deep. Alhamdulillah. And then we also talked yesterday a little bit about miracles. And I said there are different types of miracle, and I gave Arabic terms, but basically you don't need to know what the Arabic terms are. You just need to know that they're defined, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that breaks the rules of normality, because they don't apply to Him. There's nothing normal about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He just does what He wishes. إِنَّمَا إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. If He wants something to happen, it just happens. So He's not bound by rules in any way. So if we understand nature as rules, patterns, and we think that those rules and patterns are fixed and they are what we worship or we recognize as being realities, and we focus only on those, we miss Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you don't see the reality. So we know that He can do what He wishes, and He does. He changes the rules as He wishes at the hands of individuals. And if that individual happens to be a prophet, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he does that for particular reasons to prove who they are. All of those prophets had different miracles. Each of those prophets had a different miracle, and they're kind of connected to the 8 characteristics. And among the characteristics, for example, we'll just take Sayyidina Isa. Sayyidina Isa lived at a time where medicine was very advanced, and that the society recognized greatness because of greatness of understanding. The Romans were were great at understanding and constructing things around their logic, and in particular about medicine was advanced. So what did Sayyidina Isa, what miracles was he given? Medical miracles, not to the extent of limitations of just curing people. Allah made people who were dead come to life at his hands. That goes one step beyond medicine. And that's how the miracles worked within society, to prove the greatness of the Prophet that Allah wants to prove, or to give an indication of. And of course the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was language. So what did Allah give? The Quran, which is one step beyond language. That nobody could go beyond the language of the Quran. And the Arabs knew that. The worst enemies of Islam were those who still, even though they had animosity towards the Quran and to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, Walid ibn Mughira, Abu Jahl, these two, on one occasion, they knew that the Muslims used to gather in a place called Dar al-Arqam. Dar al-Arqam was basically what this is all about, this situation that we're in here. We come from different places to lift our spirits up by being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Quran. That's what we come for. That's why we're here. And that's the model of Dar al-Arqam. The companions used to come into a house and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recite Quran, would be in their company. And this is how Islam was transmitted in those early days. And Walid ibn Mughira and Abu Jahl, who showed tremendous animosity towards Islam, they used to go there, sneak there at night just to hear the Quran. Because they knew the beauty of the Quran. And they saw, no, don't, you're not coming here again. No, I'll never come here again. And then the next day, they're both there, listening to Quran. And when Walid ibn Mughira was asked, so what do you say of the Quran? They says, this Quran is from another world. It's just, we can't accept it. We can't believe it. Why? Because it impacts on they didn't criticize the language of the Quran. They didn't criticize the Quran. They just didn't accept its implications for their lives. So they rejected it. But they didn't actually reject the Quran. They says this is from another, this is not from humankind. He didn't make this up. So that's how they related to Quran. So the Quran was the miracle of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From there, I'm going to jump to hadith number 6. Actually, we did number 5 anyway, so 6 is not. Type. So this is a narration from Imran ibn Hussein. So he's one of the companions. Imran ibn Hussein. أخذ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بطرف إمامتي. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم got me by the tail of my amama, my turban. Min warai, from behind. So the Prophet ﷺ gets him from the back of the turban. This goes back to what I was saying yesterday about how he related to different companions. Some of them he made jokes with. Some of them like Sayyidina Uthman, like he'd be sitting like this, relaxed, with his izar on like this, his lungi, dhoti, sarong, whatever you want to call it. He was sitting there relaxed and just chilling, so to speak. And then Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan came and he lowered it and sat straight. And they says, Ya Rasulullah, tastahi min Uthman. Are you shy of Uthman? He said, even the angels are shy of Uthman. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, even the angels are shy of Uthman. So when Sayyidina Uthman came in, he sat differently to the way he sat with the others. When he was with his women folk, he would joke and he would laugh, and they would laugh and they would joke. And Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab walked in, and they actually ran away as he walked into the room. And they're saying, you're not scared of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you're scared of me, you're not scared of him. Because that's how he was with his women folk, including Sayyidina Umar's own daughter, who is his wife, Sayyidatuna Hafsa. And they says, yeah, we're scared of you. We'll admit it, we're scared of you. And then that's like a red flag to a bull, as we say in English. You know, you don't speak to Sayyidina Umar like that. And this is his own daughter. Yeah, we're scared of you. We're not scared of him. We're not scared of the Prophet sallallahu, but we're scared of you. And then the Prophet, Umar ibn Khattab is going to get even more angry. So what does the Prophet sallallahu say? He says, don't worry. When Umar goes down a street, Shaitan takes a different road. So even Shaitan is scared of Umar. And then he says, actually, Shaitan is scared of the shadow of Umar. So you see how he's speaking to Sayyidina Umar. He's not speaking directly to him, but he's kind of saying, you know, chill, it's all right. If everyone's scared of you, that's just who you are. Huh? But at the same time, he's talking to the women in a different, and he's saying one thing, describing Sayyidina Umar, but he's actually speaking at different levels to people. And here he comes and he grabs one of the companions by the tail of his amama. Another one, Sayyidina Mu'adh, he says, Ya Mu'adh, inni uhibbuka. Oh Mu'adh, I love you so much. That's how he starts his hadith. And this is a really important hadith. Ya Mu'adh, inni uhibbuka. I love you. Of course, yeah, okay. Can you imagine what that means? Yeah. Huh? And then he goes on to give him what we call the hadith of muhabba, which I may as well tell you now that I've said that. Ya Abrar, inni uhibbuka. Abrar, I love you. Faqul ba'da salah. So after every salah, say these words. Allahumma. Say it. Allahumma. All of you repeat. Allahumma. A'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. What it means is, oh Allah, help me. Ala dhikr, help me to remember you. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika. And help me to be grateful to you. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husna ibadatik. And help me to be excellent in my worship of you. But he doesn't just say, by the way, after every prayer, just say this. All right? Just, okay, Abrar, just say this after every prayer. No, Abrar, inni uhibbuka. Abrar, I love you. So say this. Can you see what the Prophet ﷺ is doing? And he connects with people. And that connection with people is really what we should adopt as our sunnah. Our method, if we want to follow what tasawwuf is, the tasawwuf is the way of Muhammad ﷺ. But it's not just praying like this, doing that. It's understanding how he related to other human beings. And akhlaq, character, you don't have good character by sitting in a cave. خالق الناس بخلق الحسن. Be good to people, show good character to people, because you don't show good character to yourself in a cave. You do good character to people. All right, so we talked a little bit about that, and here we say he grabbed him by the neck, the back of فقال يا عمران. So he says, يا عمران إن الله يحب الإنفاق. He loves al-infaq. He loves charity. Infaq means giving. وَيُبْغَضَ الْإِقْتَارِ. Oh, he translates this. Oh Imran, verily Allah loves spending and hates stinginess. I don't actually like that translation, because it doesn't actually describe what the word iqtar means. I'll tell you what iqtar means. Iqtar means to burn. The origin of the word means to burn al-oud. Al-oud is aloe wood. Is that right? Is that the right word in English? Maybe you can take it in Swedish. Oud is that.
I wouldn't know what it's called in Swedish. We always say oud.
Your oud. So khalas, everyone knows what oud is. It's this very beautiful, sweet-smelling wood, the best of which comes from Cambodia. So, do you know what it is in Swedish? Okay, khalas, we'll just use the Arabic word. But I think it's in English is aloe wood.
I think in Swedish it's orgal.
Orga?
Orgal.
Orgal?
Like agar wood.
Agar wood. Does that make sense to our Swedish brothers, sisters?
Yeah.
Okay. So it means to burn this, and so the smoke comes off. So why is it translated as stinginess? And you're looking at me. It does mean stingy, because that's what it means in modern Arabic. To be stingy, to not give to people. And it makes sense in this. He loves giving, he hates stinginess. The opposite of giving is to hold back. But actually the word, if you understand the origin of the word, it's actually more beautiful than that. Why is this description so important? Because what it does, it gives and gives and gives until it burns out. So the sweet smell of oud, and oud, good quality oud, is really, really, really expensive. Gold is nothing compared to this. You want a good piece of oud, you can pay about £100 for a piece of oud like this, and it'll last you one burn. You know, one gathering, £100 is gone. It's not cheap. Good quality stuff, it's not cheap. Cheap?
It's good though.
It's good though. This is a man that knows what he's talking about. He's got this smile. Yeah, but it's all right, man. He's like, yeah, but that good stuff is good stuff. Don't go for the cheap stuff. And he's absolutely right. We'll come to the fiqh points of that. But it is good. But once it's gone, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. So actually, if you understand this, it doesn't really mean stinginess. It means giving excessively. That's actually what the description is here. Allah loves giving, but He doesn't like you to give so much so that you burn yourself completely out, and the smell might be nice, but it's over in a few minutes. It doesn't make... The word is so beautiful. It actually means several things at the same time. And going back to the question that we had about counselling, why would that have anything to do with counselling? Counselling is about how you deal with people. Because this isn't just about money. In fact, in my understanding, it ain't about money at all. It's about perfume. It means giving. Why would you give perfume? How do you give perfume? Giving perfume means putting good scent on. Okay? Why would you put good perfume on as opposed to cheap and nasty perfume on? It smells nice, and if you come into somebody's... When somebody comes in smelling of beautiful perfume, everybody feels good about this smell. It brings a presence. And the perfume, we're going to come later, is actually connected to the garden. It reminds you of the garden. Which is why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Uhibbu fi dunya thalatha." I love of this world three things. What's the first one? No. First one. Let's do it in order. The first one is teeb. The first one is perfume, and then women. And some people say, hey, he loves perfume more than women. No, there's actually a reason why he says a teeb first, because perfume is actually... There's no under 18s listening, so I can say it's a bit more... There's an over 18 version of understanding this, is that teeb is actually a euphemism. Perfume here means the union in this dunya, and the greatest union of human beings is a husband and wife. And that should be facilitated by making some effort. It ain't just you come to your wife after work. No, you make yourself presentable. Sayyidina Ibn Abbas says the meaning of ashiruhunna bil ma'ruf, this is a verse, and treat them well, wa ashirunahum bil ma'ruf, is usually translated as something like this, and live with them in a state of goodness. He actually says this relates to when a husband approaches his wife, that he makes some effort. You know, he brushes his teeth before he kisses her. You know? Or if you can't brush your teeth, at least have some mints ready. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with this. This is part of relationships. A teeb symbolizes all of that. And when somebody comes, I was thinking, you know, I've got a stiff neck. Just before Jummah, I had a bit of a sore neck, and alhamdulillah, Abrar went and he got me some of this this tiger balm. You know, tiger balm. It ain't the sort of stuff that you want to come to Jummah smelling of. But fortunately, just before that, he gave me some perfume as well. So, lots of perfume on, tiny bit of tiger balm just where the muscle is hurting. Alhamdulillah, I'm ready for Jummah. It's very important. Why? Because I need to feel comfortable. The pain in the neck I need to sort out. So I do need that. But at the same time, it's Jummah. And I need to feel this is Jummah. I need to feel this is Jummah. Why? Because I don't usually feel it's Jummah. Usually Jummah for me is rush from my job, get the prayer done, and get back to the job as soon as I possibly can. That's what my Jummah is. It's not prayer, it's takhallas. there's no ikhlas, there's no sincerity in my prayer. In Arabic we have the word ikhlas, sincerity, and we have in Arabic the word takhallas, which means just get rid of something. Takhallas. So what I do for my Jum'ah is takhallas. Yeah, I've done it, alhamdulillah, I made the Jum'ah. That's it. It wasn't, oh, mashallah, what a beautiful Jum'ah. Allah's given me Yawm al-Jum'ah. It's just khalas, I managed to get there on time. I even heard part of the khutbah. That's what Jum'ah is for me. So now, today, I'm going to listen to Muhammad Muslim. The last time I heard Shaykh Muhammad Muslim was about 10 years ago in Masjid Aisha. It was about 10 years ago. I haven't heard Shaykh Muhammad Muslim give a khutbah for about 10 years. So I was actually really excited for this Jummah. So, put on some good perfume. I haven't been here for 10 years. This is a special occasion. Do you know why the Eid is called the Jummah? That's how you should feel. And part of that is putting on perfume. At-tib and then nisa. Why? Because the best thing in this dunya, is a good wife or good husband. What? Isn't that a bit over 18 he's saying? No, the Prophet ﷺ says, ad-dunya kullaha mata'. This dunya, I don't know how to translate English, so I'll just do it. So ad-dunya kullaha. Can somebody give me a proper translation? Mata'. Mata'. It's just like something enjoyment, just like passing pleasure, just a passing frivolity, just not even serious fun, just mata'. Kul mata' wa khayr al mata' imra'atun salihah. But the best of this is having a good wife. So the best thing in the dunya is to have a solid relationship. And related to that, the Prophet said, أحب في الدنيا, I love in this world 3 things. Tib, perfume. والنساء. Why? Because if I've got a good wife, then the third part of it makes sense. قرة عين في الصلاة. And the coolness of my eye is in the prayer. The coolness of your eye in the prayer will be because you wear nice perfume. And you understand perfume is actually something spiritual and is connected to the next world. But perfume on its own isn't enough. You need perfume and you need a good wife. Because if you're happy in your physical life, khalas, you can pray. Jum'ah, 10 years since I had Jum'ah behind Shaykh Muhammad Muslim. I've had a few other Jum'ahs which have been pretty cool as well. I'm not pretending that but the majority are not pretty cool. And the majority, I don't wear perfume. Why? Because I go from a meeting with some of the horriblest women I've ever met. I go to the Jummah, I pray the Jummah during my lunch hour, and then I go to another group of meeting with some other absolutely awful women. Huh? Why would I want to wear perfume? Why would I put any good quality perfume on? If I'm going to put quality perfume on, it's when I get home and I have a shower, get rid of it. I hate work. Then I'll put on perfume. Sarah, I'm yours. In every sense of the word. Salah. That's what that hadith means. If you get the full meaning of the hadith, it's very beautiful. Na'am.
So it's like preparation?
Yeah.
Because women, we don't wear perfume when we go to Jummah.
Yeah.
So
But you do for your husband.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why that hadith is so important, because the tib, the tib, you make yourself nice for your husband. You make yourself nice. Some men think that that's not our responsibility. Ibn Abbas says the exact opposite. He says that this is what the verse means. Ashiruhunna bil ma'ruf. It means make yourself right for your women. And in a modern sense, make sure you've got mints in the car. All right? Not for the meeting after the Jum'ah, because you don't need mints you can breathe garlic all over yeah. But when you come home, at-tib, النساء وقرة عيني في الصلاة. And then you'll taste, then your eye will be at peace in the salah. What will you see in there? قرة عين, the peace of your eye will be in the salah. What did we say Sufism is? أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. To worship Allah as if you can see Him. You can't see Him if you've got eyes which aren't working properly. And when I mean that, I don't mean blind, because people are blind, they can see better than the people that are not blind, some of them. It's nothing to do with that, it's having that peace of their eye. So al-iqtar means don't burn yourself out. Give, but don't burn yourself out in money. But it also means, going back to the question, I said, I probably got this wrong, the amount that I burn myself out. I'm better now than I was 10 years ago. In my life, I give and I give and I give, but I don't burn myself out as badly as I used to do. And now, why is that? Because Idrisa's mother, she's good. And that's been a major part in my life of how I understand burning the perfume. I know how to burn perfume now. I mean, but not perfume, oud. How I burn the, what do you call it in Swedish? Orge. Orgete. Okay. I know how to burn it. I also know about mince. As opposed to garlic sausage. And I know about Jum'ah. And I also know when to say no. Sometimes. So when somebody's, and that goes back to that, you need to give. Give, give, give. But also don't burn yourself out. That's what it says. So spend, but don't, he loves spending, but he hates stinginess. Getting that balance right. فَكُلْ وَأَطْعِمْ. Eat and feed. So eat and feed. So you eat, but make sure you provide for others. وَلَا تَسُرُّهُ سَرًّا. Oh, let me read the translation here. So eat, feed, and do not hoard it, meaning wealth. I'm not quite sure that's the right. فَيَعْسُرْ عَلَيْكَ الطَّلَبْ. And so that its acquisition becomes difficult for you. Now he's translating this in a way which is more general, and I'm a bit more literal. And that's because my literal mind actually takes me in all kinds of directions. Why does he use, the Prophet ﷺ use this particular word? Why does he use a word that's origin is to burn smelly wood, basically? And why does he use this word? Tasarru, actually, sarrash is the sound that a bird makes, or the chatter of teeth, or the creaking of a door. And he says, La tasarruhu sarran. Don't make that noise. What does it mean? Don't keep going to the dunya in that way. So that فَلْيَعْسُرَ عَلَيْكَ الطَّلَبْ. So we can take his translation, which was, do not hoard the dunya. Do not collect, 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 collect. But the actual word is connected to this sound. And that sound is quite interesting because that's what the dunya is. It's just, that's all the dunya is. This world is, that's all it is. وَأَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْبَصْرَ النَّافِذ. Allah loves a sight which is sharp. عِنْدَ مَجِيءِ الشُّبَهَاتِ. At the time when doubtful matters come in. So when something's, everyone is wavering about what does this mean, what does that mean, what does this mean, what does that mean, what does this mean, what does that mean, what does this mean, what does that, Allah loves it when somebody, it means this, do this. Allah loves that. And there are very few people that have that ability. And when you find them, stick with them. And you ask them. For example, when people ask me fiqh questions, sometimes I give an answer. And usually it's because I think there's something behind this. Can I say something really, really controversial? Good. We had this discussion yesterday about transgenderism. About people transitioning. They were born with male physical organs. They were physically male. And they've now transitioned to being, or transitioning to being female. And there's one sister, I'll call her a sister because that's how she wants to be described. She's now transitioning from being a male to a female. And she's got some issues, as you can imagine. And some of those issues is, where does she pray in the mosque? And the answer to most mosques is, at home. Don't come anywhere near my mosque. And she's only welcome in 2 mosques. And one of them she's not really welcome at all, because I know the imam. And he hates her. And he's only bringing her into the mosque, encouraging her to come to the mosque, because he thinks that somehow he's going to cure her mental state and she's going to become a man again. And I'm not quite sure that's going to be of benefit to her. So when she asks me a fiqh question about the impending operation that might take place in July, what should I say? Should I point her out to so-and-so and say, go to Sheikh so-and-so, he'll give you a fatwa? Should I send her to the mosque? No, I definitely don't. I'm not going to send her, because the reason she ended up contacting me was because she was about to leave Islam. Because she was told she is haram. Completely. Everything about her is haram. Which is interesting, because I don't think people could be haram. She is haram. She is haram. Like, even a pig isn't haram, by the way. Pigs are not haram. Eating them is haram, but the pig itself is not, maybe najis according to some fuqaha, impure, but it's not haram. But she is, apparently. Everything about her is haram, so she should leave Islam. That's what she was told over and over again. You have no place in Islam, you have to leave Islam. So she did, or was about to. And then she contacted me. Right, what do I do? Shaykh?
Well, what springs to mind, the easy sort of answer is obviously the same that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Wabisa.
Oh, he's good. I should seek what's in my heart. And I'll tell you what's in my heart. This is a poor soul who is in a really bad way and is looking for Allah and has found something. And she needs help to understand where she's going in her life. And if I reject her, like all the others have rejected her, she won't find Allah. Or I would have pushed her away from Allah. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, because she approached me, I don't know whether I can speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and says, I chased her away from you. I don't think I could do that. So I ain't going to chase her away. Now she's got a question about the gender reassignment surgery. It just happens that there are 2 fatwas that I know of which permit gender reassignment, and one of them was by Sheikh Tantawi, who was a Shaykh Al-Azhar in the 1980s. And he said, based on a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ was asked a question about somebody who had both female and male organs, and so he told this person, or told somebody about this, so told the father of the person to, translated literally, cut the vein. Meaning, she would become, the child would become a woman by an operation. So do this surgery, and then she will no longer be having to. So based on this, the actual operation itself is not haram. So if I don't know anything about this stuff, by the way, okay, I'm not pretending I know anything about it, but I know that I can tell her that Sheikh Tantawi had said the following. I say, let's get that out of the way, and now let's get on with talking about how you move your life forward. So being able to have clarity when you deliver a message like that and knowing where you're coming from is really very important, especially in these times. And that's why I'm not an imam. I've been offered opportunities to take responsibility in this mosque or to join this organization. And the reason why I don't do any of that is because as soon as I take a post as an imam, I will have to say what the community needs me to say. Whereas now I can say what I like. I work for the council. And I do. Because if I said what I've just said to you in public elsewhere, I would probably be arrested. Or not arrested, beaten up by the community. Because what it sounds like is I'm encouraging a transgender woman. That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? And I don't have a problem with that. It sounds like whatever you want it to sound like. I'm not worried about what you think of me. What I'm worried about is Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah's going to ask me, what did I do for this person? And I don't want to turn to it, I don't want to be in the position to say, I chased her away from your door because it's haram. She didn't need Islam, so I chased her away. I don't want to be in that position. I would rather get it wrong than say, and I don't think I've got it wrong. In fact, I know I've not got it wrong. Because my focus is trying to solve this situation. And the answer when you deal with people sometimes needs that sharpness of vision and commitment to what you believe is the most important aspect of this. Other things, somebody asked me a question about working in a company designing systems, banking systems. I don't know. Ask Sheikh Musa. I don't need to answer that question because that's what Sheikh Musa Ferber's for. Now, he studied all those years so he can give fatwa. But I didn't send this girl to him. Why? Because it would confuse him. So you sometimes need to make decisions about how you deal with human beings. And when my understanding, and Allah knows best, Inna Allah yuhibbul basar an-nafidh, being able to have that sharp vision. Inda majia shubahat. When we get these problematic questions coming to us in our society, in our lives, being sharp in understanding what is correct is really important, especially if you're in the public eye. Because we all, to some extent, are in the public eye. So, wal-aql al-kamil, and complete intellect. Aql means to grab something. And that's why the word aql is used for the intellect. It grasps, it limits, al-kamil. So being able to grasp something intellectually, Allah loves this. In the nuzul al-shahawat, at the time when you fall into shahawat, just passions, but being able to, no, this is how it should be. وَيُحِبُّ السَّمَاحَةَ, and he loves penetrating. I'll read what the translation says, so you can, in case I've confused you by my ramblings, and realize that Allah loves penetrating vision at the arrival of questionable matters, and a perfected mind at the descent of loves. He loves largesse, even expressed through a few dates. Samaha here is normally means generosity. So if he has samaha, it means he has two qualities. One, he's able to, samaha means to tolerate. That's a really good word. I was going to say to overlook. Samihuni means forgive me, pardon me, overlook what I've just done. Okay, it was a mistake. Samihuni. Samaha means, but usually it's translated as generosity. In this sense, it means generosity to give. But what we're talking about here is giving in the way I was talking about giving before. Not giving money. It means giving your heart. And people know. And I said yesterday that no one ever became Muslim in my company through all of my talks. You put all of my talks together and maybe, it doesn't work. But sometimes the strangest situations where people have become Muslim. I think I told you this story. Was one guy just came banging on my door. I want to become Muslim. I want to become Muslim. No, he did. He said, I have to become Muslim. I have to become. I'm thinking, first of all, who are you? And second, how do you know how do you know where I live? It was kind of freaky. Some guy banging on the door. So I kind of asked him, so who are you? And he says, you don't remember me? Nope. I mean, I didn't want to say no, but I had to kind of admit I have no idea who you are. He says, I was your taxi driver a month ago. I'm thinking, what's going on? And then he took Shahada. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? He has to become Muslim because he drove me in a taxi a month ago and I didn't even recognize him. Apparently, my ex-wife had used the same taxi company several times, so he did remember the house, and she actually got a couple of free trips out of this guy. And I didn't know. But it's cool. But somehow, there was some communication between us that when he hit a crisis, he knew that he needed to bang on that door and ask that man to become Muslim. He had no idea what Islam was about. He knew that in Nigeria, Muslims do stuff. And he's Nigerian but Christian, and he kind of wants to do that Muslim stuff. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows it's kind of Muslim stuff, and they kind of believe in a God which is sort of the same as ours but different. And that's what he wants, because my God and my religion ain't doing it for me. So I need that. And I hadn't said a word to him. But somehow there was some kind of communication where he became Muslim. And that's why you need to be careful when you deal with people, because you might just chase somebody away from Islam without even knowing it. In the same way that you might just convince somebody to become Muslim by smiling at them. Or saying, there was one lady who apparently I just says mashallah to her. She said I saved her life. This is the truth. Some years later, she says, I was on the verge of committing suicide, and I had attempted suicide regularly since she was about 9 years old. She was sent as a child to England from Norway because apparently they didn't have any mental health program to support this particular kind of child. So they sent her to England to get treatment. And in those days, the treatment wasn't particularly good. And she'd gone through this process over and over again of wanting to commit suicide. And apparently, the thing that changed her life was I'd given a talk like this, and she probably couldn't remember a word. I can't even remember a word of what I said. But in the car park, she came up to me, and I was exhausted. In those days, I used to do my full day's work, fly to Amsterdam, fly from Amsterdam to Oslo, get there at 11 o'clock at night, and then there'll be people waiting for me for the first meeting. And then they'll be up before Fajr. And after Fajr, I'll have breakfast meetings. And then I'll go to teach, and I'll teach all day long. And then at 6 o'clock, I try and go home, and there'll be people there. So I'm completely exhausted. I come into the car park, and this lady comes up to me and says, Shaykh, I write poetry. And I'm thinking, mashallah. And that's all I said, mashallah. And then I got in the car. Just leave me alone. I'm tired. Do you not know I haven't slept for 24 hours and I've just travelled on 3 planes which took me 6 hours to get here, and I've just talked for 12 hours, just go away. But I didn't say that. I said, mashallah. And then she got my email address and she started sending me poetry and photos of rabbits. And I says, these rabbits are beautiful and I like your poetry. And apparently she started to heal. And about 6 months later she said, I want to start to pray. And then I says, maybe you should start going and meeting people. And she started going to the mosque. And then she started to function in normal. And what had happened was never in her life had anybody said anything positive to her. Every single thing that she'd done in her life, she'd always been criticised for. Everything had been negative. The response from her parents from childhood was always negative. And apparently, the word MashaAllah was the first time from anybody with respect had shown any kind of positivity towards her. And what I meant was, I'm really tired, just go away, please. But the word, mashallah, changed her life. There's another guy who later on I also found out, he said, I was at a gathering and he says, so they said, so how do you know Abdalaziz? The guy says, Abdalaziz, he saved my life. I'm thinking, what? When did I save your life? He says, no, I was going to commit suicide. I was on the verge of killing myself and I phoned Abdalaziz before I decided to kill myself. And he said, I love you, man. I don't even remember the conversation. But apparently in this conversation, I said to him, I love you, man. And he didn't commit suicide. Think how powerful your words can be. But it's not just your words. This is what it's talking. Samaha isn't about giving charity. It's about giving to people. If you really give with your heart, they'll know. And I know that's probably the only thing I've learned from my Shaykh Habib Ahmed Mashur al-Haddad. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people became Muslim through him. And it wasn't through his teaching only. A lot of it, he just looked at people and, I want to become Muslim. And I witnessed this. People have become Muslim just by looking at him. Whatever he's got, I want it. Yeah. Most of the people that I know that have become Muslim through him, including the guy that came banging on my door, the taxi driver, because I phoned Al-Habib. I said, Al-Habib, and he doesn't normally pick up the phone himself. So when this strange thing, this guy banging on my door saying he wants to become Muslim, he has to become Muslim. I phoned Habib. Habib, I'm freaked out, man. That's what I wanted to say. So I phoned up Habib in Jeddah, and he picked up the phone himself, not his children. Naam, he said. Naam. He says, Habib, Naam, Abdalaziz. So what happened then? ماذا فعل? What happened? He says, Habib, جاء أحد, somebody came, نعم, نعم, كيف حاله? Could أسلم? Did he become Muslim then? Thinking, huh? It was as if he'd sent him to bang on my door. And most of the people that have taken Shahada, and some of these strange stories that is not because of me, but it's perhaps the samah of my Shaykh. But you need that as well. If you're doing da'wah, this hadith, if you want to really be a Sufi, give. Samaha, give from your heart. Walau ala tamarat, even if it's just giving dates. My first visit to Egypt, in the times when Egypt was a great place. Any Egyptians here who I've offended? Because those Egyptians will probably know what I mean. There was and I don't mean this I do mean it in a bad way, but Egypt, like most countries, have been overwhelmed by the world. And this is like symbolic of the world, the Muslim world in particular. It's been overwhelmed by the world, by the internet. And if you strip all of that back, there's basically a beauty around every group of people. And when I went to Egypt for the first time, I witnessed things that I couldn't believe would happen. I remember walking down this stream, by the stream, and every single person I met said, Assalamu alaikum, tafaddal. Assalamu alaikum, tafaddal. Assalamu alaikum, tafaddal. It was as if that was a sentence. Peace be upon you. Welcome. Come on, join us. And every single family, every single person, it was, tafaddal. They haven't got a clue who I am, but they had this samaha, this generosity, which was unbelievable. 20 years later, I went back to the same place, and it was like, whoa, I really like this. Everyone seems to be wanting to rip me off. And the world had changed from this natural generosity, kindness. The first time I went to the north of Sweden, I found the same thing that I found in Egypt. I remember, because I think you have laws over here that you can actually swim anywhere. You can actually swim anywhere in Sweden, even if it's a private lake. Yeah. That's one of the kind of laws, and I didn't know that. So I just thought this was a lake, and it's kind of public. It looks like it's a public lake. It doesn't look like it's owned by anybody. And I just went in to swim. And this lady came out and she offered some, and she says, by the way, you know this is my lake. I think, oh my God, I'm really sorry, I've just swam in. No, in Sweden, everybody is allowed to camp, and except if it's a certain distance from a house. So even if it's private land, so she's explaining this to me and saying, yeah, you're welcome to, because it's this distance from my house and you can camp there if you want to. And I was thinking, what warmth she has. What warmth she has. And that's what's meant in this. And there's no disrespect to Sweden but things have changed. I don't find that warmth when I travel to Egypt. That's why I don't travel very much anymore. I like this place because it's got some kind of feel about it. So that's what's meant in here. Walau ala tamarat. Why was I saying about Egypt? Because my sheikh, I have one sheikh who was Egyptian, Sheikh Mahmoud Galal. And he was a bachelor for many years. Not a real bachelor. His wife was in Egypt for about 15 years or 10 years. And that was the time that I spent most with him. So I would go to visit him, and he would not let me leave the house without giving me something. And he'd go to the fridge and there'd be a tomato. He leaves a bachelor. He'd go, tomato. He'd just come out, he'd cut the tomato in half and share a tomato. And there was no way I could go to Sheikh Mahmoud's house without having something. And I remember this one occasion, there's a tomato. And it was just like, that's what we do. You know, I'm an Egyptian sheikh. And he's got that quality. And when it says, Allah loves as-samaha walau ala tamarat, it's even just giving a date. وَيُحِبُّ الشَّجَاعَ, and he loves bravery. وَلَوْ عَلَى قَتْلِ حَيَّةٍ, even if it's on killing a snake. Is that right? Yeah, he loves bravery. And I think shaja'a is another quality which we'll talk about perhaps at another time. And I think I'm going to stop there. I only covered one hadith. I'm not doing very well today, am I? But inshallah, in that hadith there's a lot, I hope. Just to recap, balance. Not getting too involved in the dunya, and giving and giving and giving from your heart, and that manifests even in a smile or a date. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. Jazakum Allah khairan.